It seems like the sheeple are back in the, well, the economic collapse blog.com has the right word. Economic confidence surges to the highest level that Gallup poll has ever recorded in the U.S. Economic confidence. In other words, Trump's in there. We are so confident of the economy now. And all I can think of is, what about the massive unfunded liabilities, the massive debt, the massive student loan debt, the massive car loan debt, the massive credit card debt that continually grows because it's more and more of it's becoming unpayable, so they stop paying. How could you possibly have economic confidence all of a sudden? I understand Trump, I'm going to drain the swamp, I'm going to get the right people in the place. He's going to do the right things. But as the ET said, that drew that picture in the field with the binary code, allegedly, the ET face, much pain, but still time. Do not believe in the, what did he say? People, something like deceivers and false beliefs, the false gifts and promises. Don't believe. Much pain, but still time. Conduit closing bell sound. That's where I'm leaning. I'd rather lean in a field of an ET face, three-dimensional face that was drawn in a freaking field many, many, many years ago with binary disc code of a disc with the code in his hand that when deciphered said that. I'm in agreement with whatever the hell that was. Maybe that was divine intervention of a crop field that said much pain but still time. Okay. I wish Trump the best because he's really, truly going to try. I can see it. I've seen his pick. He just picked Carl Icahn. Remember him? Multi-billionaire. I've read articles from the guy. He knows what he's talking about. He sees the problems. He knows. And Carl Icahn is not going to be in the cabinet per se. He's going to be an advisor to help Trump pick the right person to head the Security and Exchange Commission. Oh, it's going to be fantastic. Like I said, Gary Gensler of the CFTC, he went to go run Hillary's finance campaign chair when she was running. He didn't go to Trump. If he would have went over to Trump and I saw Gary Gensler go and do that, I would have said immediately, game over. Trump is, we're finished. It was the biggest scam ever against us. We're done. But he didn't go over there. He went to Hillary's side. Trump picked somebody else. Anyways. So on one hand, U.S. economic confidence surges to the highest level that Gallup has ever corrected. Markets everything's great. Everything's fine. Nothing to worry about. And then on the other side, like from this article from Zero Hedge, which is more in line with, realist news here, says Doug Casey warns, we're going to have financial chaos. It's a dangerous situation. And that's actually a link from shtfplan.com. Doug Casey is the founder of Casey Research and well known for his forecasting prowess, having accurately called the crash of 2008 and many other trends over the last 4 decades, by the way. In his latest interview with Future Money Trends, Casey explains what a Donald Trump presidency will mean for financial markets, economic stimulus, and geopolitics. As he's noted previously, 2008 was just the first part of the storm, and we are rapidly approaching the trailing edge of the hurricane, so to speak. This time around, it's going to last much longer and be much worse than what we experienced before. And in short, he explains, the one thing I feel very confident of is we're going to have financial chaos in years to come, and that's going to drive people into gold, into a lesser degree into silver. There's absolutely no reason from fundamental point of view for bonds and stocks to be as high as they are right now. We are in for a huge political, financial, demographic, and military upset. These people might start World War III or seem like they're trying to with the Russians. It's a very dangerous situation. With Donald Trump set to take office in late January 2017, Casey believes his infrastructure initiatives will be a boon for the commodities industry. He says, I really believe him. I think that they're going to push for lots of infrastructure in the U.S., and that's going to take a lot of metals. So that's a favorable short-term influence for metals. And by the way, it doesn't necessarily mean precious metals, copper, steel, etc. I can be talked into buying a copper or zinc or cobalt stock, but I want to stick with gold and also uranium. I really think that the future of power generation is going to be in solar-related things, but at the present moment, by far the cheapest, the cleanest, and the safest form of mass power generation is still nuclear. That's exactly the opposite of what everyone is told. But especially if we are to have a deregulated environment in the future, nuclear is going to do well. There are about 150 new nuclear plants under construction around the world, most of them in China and India. I'm very bullish on uranium. I'm selling below the cost. It's selling below the cost of production. But despite President Trump's best effort, says Casey, he won't be able to stop the bloodbath coming in the bond market. A preview, which has been available for all to view in China, where the government halted trading last week following a record bond market crash. People forgot that the last peak in the interest rate was between 1980 to 82, when T-bills were yielding over 16%. Since then, interest rates have been in a 35-year bear market, going to below zero, which I thought was metaphysically impossible. So interest rates are going to go up. Low interest rates and negative interest rates are actually destructive of capital and civilization because it discourages people from saving. It doesn't matter what these stupid governments do. Interest rates are headed up. And I think they're headed up, way up, for a long time at this point. So if you own bonds, sell them. Hit the bid, he says. Ever the skeptic when it comes to information, disinformation, and misinformation emanating from the mainstream media, Casey warns that the narratives being spun to divide Americans are dangerous to the stability of the nation and could lead to civil war. He says it's extremely serious. The real fake news is what you hear on CNN, MSNBC, and even Fox. I don't trust anything I hear. The mass media is basically the mouthpiece of the deep state. These people that have the money and have the power and basically treat the rest of us in the country as peons, they're very dangerous. I actually think that the U.S. is on the ragged edge of a civil war because the people that elected Trump are hated on a visceral level by the preachers that are around the Democratic Party in the deep state, and that includes Republicans. Now, this other article from the Economic Collapse blog, U.S. economy confidence surges to the highest level that Gallup has ever recorded. Oh, keep the partying going, keep the music on is what this is saying, right? Gallup's U.S. Economic Confidence Index has never been higher than it is today. The Trumphoria that has gripped the nation ever since Donald Trump's miraculous victory on election night shows no signs of letting up. Tens of millions of Americans that were deeply troubled by Barack Obama's policies over the last 8 years are feeling optimistic about the future for the first time in a very long time. And it is hard to blame them because what we have already seen happen since November 8th is nothing short of extraordinary. The stock market keeps hitting record high after record high. The U.S. dollar is now the strongest that it's been in 14 years. And CEOs are personally promising Trump that they will bring jobs back to the United States. These are things worth getting excited about. And so it makes perfect sense that Gallup's U.S. Economic Confidence Index has now risen to the highest levels that Gallup has ever seen. And of course, this booming level of confidence is not just reflected in Gallup's numbers. As I discussed in a previous article, the mammoth shift in the results of CNBC's All-American Economic Survey after the election was nothing short of historic. And on Tuesday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed at yet another all-time high. That was the 17th record close since Election Day, and overall the Dow was up a whopping 8% during that time span. I don't think that we have ever seen an extended post-election stock market rally quite like this one, and the U.S. dollar is rallying too. On Tuesday, the U.S. dollar was the strongest it's been in 14 years. But of course, not everything is rainbows and unicorns, he says. Signs of trouble continue to erupt all over the U.S. economy, and there are many that believe that Trump will be facing some very serious economic concerns very early in his presidency. You can count JSNP 4 on that list. Just look at what is happening in the auto industry. Unsold vehicles are piling up at an alarming pace at dealers all over the nation, and GM just announced that it's going to temporarily close 5 factories. And GM isn't alone. Back in October, Ford made a similar announcement. Another signal that the economy is slowing down is the tremendous difficulty that Uber is experiencing right now. If you can believe it, they just announced that they lost a staggering $800 million in the third quarter. And that little article says Uber racked up pro forma losses more than $800 million in the third quarter of this year as a price war with rival ride-hailing service Lyft in the U.S. and heavy spending on new initiatives weighed on its figures, according to a person familiar with the matter. Yada, yada, yada. I don't understand how Uber could possibly lose $800 million in 3 months. Something is definitely very wrong over there. Personally, I hope that things go well as possible during the Trump administration. If we truly are entering a new golden era of peace and prosperity, that would be more than okay with me. And JSNIP4 too, that's for sure. But we should not forget that our economic fundamentals have continued to deteriorate all throughout the Obama years, and our nation has been steadily accumulating the largest mountain of debt the world has ever seen. Unless there is some sort of unprecedented miracle, or as Lindsey Williams would say, in divine intervention, there is no way that this giant bubble that we are in at the moment is going to end well. So it is definitely good to be optimistic, but we also need to be realistic about where we are right now and about the great challenges we soon may be facing, or soon will be facing, he says. Realist, huh? Realistic? Yeah, that's me, Realist News. You can't tell me, like he said, unicorns and rainbows, and in the next breath, factory closing, automobile factory closing, student debt out of control, national debt out of control, spending out of control, job numbers completely fake, nonsense, out of control, EBT, food stamps, out of control, still 46 or so million people on that. These things would go in reverse, right? If you have a good economy and there's 24 million people on food stamps, which to me says that's a good economy. Okay, whatever. Now it's 48 or so, 46 to 48, I forget the number. And it stayed that way for years now. That tells you, that's your thermometer. The thermometer says whatever you hear on the TV from the government, from the news, is lies. Which means if this thermometer is right, I better start looking about protecting my finances through precious metals. And they know you're going to get to that conclusion. So what do? Let's slam the price of precious metals. And when it starts to creep up again, slam it harder. Let's make sure nobody gets into those precious metals. We want to scare them away. We can hold the price down for years, as you've seen. We will hold it down until the last person who is holding out comes to the conclusion, I'm done. You guys win. I'm selling my silver. Take a loss because I bought it, $25 an ounce or whatever you bought it, and I'm just going to walk away with my tail between my legs. That will be the worst decision you ever made in your life if you do that. You should be buying more at these incredible prices. Take care.